summer temperatures are causing the country's water levels to decline. The Water and Sanitation Department says most water supply system levels are declining weekly. Let's get more now from the National Department of Water and Sanitation spokesperson, Sputnik Ratau. He joins us now virtually. Here we are again, Mr. Ratau. Every year during this time, we have to speak to you and find out about our dam levels. How's it looking so far compared to last week, for instance?
Yes, week on week we are seeing those declines, Maseko, as you correctly put it. And in essence, you're also correct that every year at this time we are seeing those declines. It is seasonal, it is cyclical, and therefore it is expected. But obviously, as things stand, we are still in a much better situation than we were even 2 years ago. Yes, between now and last year at the same time, it is quite comparative. So we are not in such a terrible state in terms of the national outlook when we look at what the averages are. And you are still correct when you talk about the different systems and how they are declining. And that is continuing. Where we are having a particular interest is obviously with the Western Cape water supply system, because we know that this past winter, they did not receive that much rainfall to be able to recharge their systems.
And of course, your other concern, I assume, would be an area such as Nelson Mandela Bay?
Nelson Mandela Bay continues as a concern. There has been a bit of an increase in the Algoa supply system that is supplying Nelson Mandela Bay and surrounds, but it is really minimal, and it hasn't even taken us over the 20% level for the system itself. So that system, that area is still in dire straits. The Amatole water supply system that supplies your East London and other areas is in a much better state. But when we look at the overall, in terms of those areas that are still experiencing dire straits, including your Sarah Bartman and so on, we are still very concerned and keeping a keen eye on it, obviously.
When I looked at the statistics that you released, Mr. Ratau, obviously because the Western Cape last year, I believe you said, was standing at about 81.8% during the same period last year and is at 70-something% right now. But I also look at the Northwest. It seems to be quite a problematic province. Like while other provinces are at your 90% and over, it's always been at your 70s. Is it a concern for you?
The Northwest is a concern. It is part of those that we always look at. It would be your Eastern Cape, your Northwest, your Limpopo, as well as your KZN. Those are the ones that are in the mainly in our radar. But the Northwest, you are correct, has declined a bit more than what we would have expected. And we would be hoping that the next rains, as soon as they come, we are still concerned that at the moment we haven't seen the beginning yet. And therefore, we would really be keen to see what happens in the next couple of weeks to a month, because it is important that, especially with areas like your Rustenburg local municipality, your Mahikeng and so on, those areas have been battling. And remember that the Mulatedi Dam has also got a core responsibility to share some of that water with your Gaborone in Botswana.
Mr. Ratau, you know, it's going to be very difficult to tell the viewers who are watching us speak right now to use water sparingly, especially if you go outside and you experience the scorching heat that we're experiencing in 6 out of the 9 provinces in the country. So it's going to be quite difficult to convince people to use water sparingly, but of course we should, to avoid a catastrophe. But let's talk about Eskom. You know, Rand Water, for instance, saying that we are in trouble in some parts of the northern part of Johannesburg when it comes to water, because load shedding is affecting, obviously, the pumping system for reservoirs, etc. How big of trouble are we here? Is the Water and Sanitation Department going to have some sort of meeting with Eskom about this? We cannot carry on with stage 4 and 3 for any longer, especially if the weather is going to stay the way that it is.
$1 million question. Maseko, it's a matter that is giving us sleepless nights. You remember that Rand Water being our biggest water board in the country, with the biggest systems and supplying all of Gauteng and a couple of other areas in other provinces, but also Suikerbosch being the biggest water treatment plant that we have and the most critical. And the system, you know, that is why it is always difficult to explain how, you know, not having power has got even bigger impact on the water supply system than any other thing, because when you return the power, you begin to pump again, but the pressure that you can only put into the pipeline, you have to really manage very, very keenly, because you do not want to end up with pipe bursts due to extreme pressure from the water. So those kind of things are a concern. Yes, those discussions are happening. We're looking at how we can be able to assist as well the different treatment systems that need to be powered. But our biggest concern, obviously, is not even about, or rather, not that it is not, but bigger than maybe the potable water issues are the wastewater treatment plants, because those, if they do not operate correctly, then, you know, there is a bigger impact, because then the environment becomes even more impacted negatively.
And Dr. Sputnik Ratau, thank you very much for speaking to us here on All Angles. I mean, you can understand how despondent South Africans are with Eskom, especially about this ripple effect that we're seeing happening now because of a lack of power supply. Let's